Just baseball show for Friday. It is May 24th. Us again. Sorry, Jack. Aram. Notable transactions. Some sad news. Couple of options and an IL stint for a guy that really has struggled to stay off the injured list. The Phillies are Phillying, and we got to talk about where the pitfalls may be, but why they are excelling the way that they are excelling. A couple underrated trade targets. I think we talk a lot about Mason Miller and other relievers at the deadline. Like, that's what happens. Bullpen arms get dealt, but there are some bats that could be on the move as well. World Baseball Classic announced the host sites for 2026, which is really exciting. Some fun locations. Hitters of the week, games of the weekend. It's all presented by BetMGM. Jack and Aram. Just want to remind you about our friends at Game Time off the top. A reminder that Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Obviously we've been firsthand testimonials galore on Game Time. Just want to let you know, you should use them for last minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JUSTBASEBALL, all caps, one word, for $20 off your first purchase. It is in the episode description. Again, redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Arm, you have a friend in the room with you. How's he doing?
Yeah, the fly, it's
Yeah.
driving me nuts, man. I'm going crazy. There's something about the buzzing like in near my ears. It really makes it hard for me to do this. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get through this episode. But if I'm saying something that's not that smart, yeah, I'll blame it on the fly. I have a mulligan right now, I think.
Have you tried not emanating any heat from your body? I think heat attracts the flies.
Oh God, I like we talked about this, dude. I sweat when I podcast now sometimes.
Oh, that's right. I
So
forgot
yeah,
about
so we're toast. I mean, it's gonna be hovering around me this whole episode.
just in
But
through the
it's right.
nose, out through the
We
mouth,
got to get
man.
through it. I feel like Jabba Chamberlain right now.
Dude,
It's just next level battling out here.
were they flies? What were they?
I don't know
Gnats?
what the hell they were, but yeah, they were gnats. Whatever it is. They're just like buzzing around your face, all time bad. And I'm in your neck of the woods right now in terms of like, uh, you guys, did you ever have like the cicadas? Because I know like that's a big thing right now too. Disgusting, by the way. Like a very weird thing to normalize as well. Like, oh, we have droves of cicadas coming in, and they don't have any fear of humans. They actually love to like pile up on top of you. Like that's bizarre. I don't know why that's normalized. And it's of course right when I'm here, and they make the most awful noise ever. Yeah, I don't know. The Midwest has some unique things I think that get swept under the rug.
Yeah, man, it sucks. Welcome. Like we didn't choose it. We all would have lived in South Florida if we could have. Although that you guys got the gators and all that stuff. The cicadas were weird. I remember them growing up. The worst thing that I saw today was the cicada Malort shot. Did your girlfriend show you that?
No.
Have you ever tried Malort?
What the hell is that?
You should go try a shot of Malort. You guys should hit the town in Chicago this weekend, and you should go try Malort. And I'll save how I feel about Malort until after you try that shot. But Malort is offering a shot with cicadas in the shot, so you can have a cicada shot. But yeah, go to a bar, get you and your girlfriend a shot of Malort this weekend, and we'll talk about it on the Monday show. Okay?
People are running out of fucking ideas. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's unreal.
When we ran out of ideas? When KFC started making the sandwich with the chicken like as the buns.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, dude, we got through a lockout, and I feel like we never got that bad with the ideas. Like, we
Yeah.
were never down that bad.
Yeah.
But man,
It's fine dining, man. Cicada infused shots and chicken buns. Notable
ugh.
transactions. We got to talk about them. The one IL stint that is new is John Means hits the shelf again with forearm issues. I think it's forearm tightness, which is what sidelined him at the end of spring training. It's what held him out of the start of the season. John Means is post TJ, and now that's multiple forearm flare ups
Mhm.
for Means. This is totally stars aligning at the opening of the window for the Baltimore Orioles. The one thing that hasn't aligned with everything else has been John Means, which really stinks. And you can't
Mhm.
even say Bradish, hitting the shelf at the beginning of this year because Bradish was so good last year and he propelled them to an AL East title. It Means helped them weather the horrible years. he was the thing that brought a couple hundred people to the ballpark whenever he threw. And for
Yeah.
him not to reap the rewards of this best version of Orioles baseball since I don't know when, it just really sucks. I really
Yeah.
feel for John Means in
No,
this.
I totally agree with you. I think it's a great point, because he is one of the longest tenured guys there too, and has weathered some tough stretches. And it stinks also because when we've seen him right physically, he's still out there getting outs, and that changeup is nasty, and he can just pitch. The guy flat out just knows how to pitch. And like when you look at it from the Orioles' perspective, they can make it work without him. I don't think it's going to be something that totally crushes them. It's nice to have a veteran lefty like that in your rotation, but especially when it's all righties right now. But they've got Chase McDermott, who by the way was disgusting again
10 walk off
last
innings.
night. And then you also have Cade Povich, who's been throwing the ball really well overall this season as well. Both those guys in AAA Norfolk. But from just the human standpoint, it stinks because of everything you've said. Just in terms of what he's gone through, just playing on some bad teams, now has a chance to pitch and the highest of leverage and the biggest stage. And I'm hoping that they just kind of shut him down for the majority of this season. And in the back end, you can have him back and available, whether it be in that like Kyle Hendricks role, where you just kind of take whatever you can get from him, or because that's a role that like Jonathan Heasley's in right now. They also have like Cole Irvin in a similar type of role, kind of coming up and down potentially. Like I think Heasley's going to be the guy that ends up filling in that long relief role. I'm not sure if they've said who it's going to be yet, but like they could protect him, kind of put him in a less important role, and he could still serve, I think, a purpose for them if he can stay healthy. But I don't think they need him that badly right now, and I think the focus should just be get right. And I feel like with the forearm just continuing to flare up, now it's been twice since TJ. Maybe it's just the eagerness to get back and help a team that's trying to win.
Yeah.
I hope he kind of takes his sweet time now, and hopefully that helps a little bit more.
I'm doomsdaying, but you just don't want this to turn into Lance McCullers because Lance
Yeah,
McCullers has been all but forgotten at this point. Like it's
I literally
crazy.
forgot about him.
I know. Like I bring up his name and I'm just like, oh shit, I forgot that he's like, is he working his way back? I have no idea. But you don't want this to turn into guys trying to push his way back to join the best years of the Houston Astros in decades. And he keeps on suffering setback after setback after setback. And that's not what you want for John Means because he's got a lot of good pitching left to kind of echo your point here. And when I think the faces of the bad Baltimore Orioles, Cedric Mullins is on the team. He's playing center. But Trey Mancini, like, I wish that guy could be a part of it. Unfortunately, he can't. And like the whole thing about Baltimore's offensive depth, and Mancini would, unfortunately be kind of dragging that down. Means is still holding where the standard would be for that pitching staff. Like he is
Yep.
still a very good pitcher, and he's just absent right now, which stinks. But I'm with you, man. Like, shut it down, feel right, join him for the home stretch. I want to ask you about Povich and McDermott real quick
Mhm.
because Povich started the year so strong, and McDermott was walking a bunch of guys. McDermott out of spring training, I think, was ahead of Povich, right? Like
Mhm.
we kind of viewed them as, hey, McDermott's probably the first one up. And then 5 starts into the year, oh, Povich is the first one up. Povich was balling. Last couple of outings, man, like McDermott threw what, 6 perfect? And then last night or 2 nights ago, he was 5 innings, 1K, 10 walk, or 5 innings, 1 walk, 10Ks. That would be a brutal
Yep.
outing. But like, has McDermott bunny hop Povich again? Or are they just kind of running side by side right now?
I think it's kind of one of those where you just grab the hot hand. I think they are kind of running side by side, and you have to just kind of see where that guy is at, where both of them are at when you need one of them, and go from there. And maybe it's a situation where it's a left-handed heavy lineup or something, and that could be the deciding factor. Like that's how close I think they are. But right now, the hot hand is clearly McDermott. I do feel like, and I'm curious what you think, because I know you've seen both these guys throw plenty, and they're going to be called on at some point this year.
Yeah.
We talked about it even last episode, where they're pitching super deep in Baltimore, but it's baseball, and there's going to be a time where they're going to need one of these guys, and it might be sooner rather than later. I feel like McDermott's stuff is more conducive to big league success. But at the
Yeah.
same time, Povich is just funky, man, and that might just work. So that's where like Povich is kind of cut from that gasser cloth where it's like, yeah, your stuff plus models aren't going to love him or whatever it may be, but he's going to go out there and get outs. McDermott, the stuff plus models will like him. I don't know what they've said. I don't really look at that too much, especially with the prospects. But like, I'm sure that they like him a little bit more than Povich. I think when you're seeing what he's doing right now, by the way, Jack, last four outings, 11 Ks, 8 Ks, 8 Ks, 10 Ks.
Yeah.
That's insane. And so when you're whiffing like guys like that, that's 21 and 2/3 innings, 37 strikeouts, four walks. That's the huge thing
That's
with
the number.
McDermott. So if McDermott keeps building on this, like if we see a couple more outings like that, then yeah, maybe he does pass him because the stuff is just on another level,
Yeah.
and he's sitting mid 90s. But I do think still, if you're trying to look at it in a larger scale and try not to be too reactionary, they are still kind of hand in hand. And Povich did have a nice little bounce back in his last outing, going 6 innings, 1 earned run, no walks, 8 Ks against Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, I like the handedness point. I also think like bullpen, how rested is your bullpen? I think if you have a rested bullpen, you go to McDermott because he can give you five very good innings and he can be five shutout throwing 100 pitches, but five shutout. Povich, it's like, okay, we need a guy to get us through six. I
Mm-hmm.
think that guy, regardless of what the score looks like, can give you 6 innings in a
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball game. Now, he might get hit, like it might be 6 innings, five earned, but like that's okay. You're asking for innings at that point. And I know it sounds counterintuitive. It's like, why would you go with the guy who is more conducive to getting hit around? Because it's a long season and your relievers have to work a lot and sometimes on really short rest. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do need the sacrificial lamb. And I think Povich is way better than a sacrificial lamb,
Yeah.
but he is more of the guaranteed innings eater than a McDermott who may tightrope his way through 5 innings and punch out 10, but also walk four and be at 110 pitches through five.
100%. What I do like too is depending on how you want to go about it, McDermott's more of that Swiss Army knife for you. Where
Yes.
Povich, I really like him as a starter or long relief. McDermott, they might be able to slot him into high leverage as well down the
Yell
stretch. And
Hall. Think
yeah,
Hall. Think
hmm
Hall's usage for McDermott.
and I think he would thrive as
Mhm.
long as he's throwing strikes. And right now he is. I think he would thrive in that role. And I look at the back end of the bullpen with no Bautista. I don't trust Kimbrel at all. I don't think anybody does. Yennier Cano should be the guy that's closing out ball games. And for the most part, I think he's going to be down the line.
Yeah.
I think you look at the high leverage arms that you have, you can make the case from a stuff perspective that McDermott could end up being one of your better high leverage arms down the stretch. I don't know if they want to do that, or if that's how they're going to do it, but I think they should consider it because rather than having this guy, just chill in AAA if he's not going to get an opportunity to crack the rotation, I'd rather see him in this bullpen than a couple of the names that we've got there. I know some guys have been throwing well overall, and I know there's some guys that even if you look at some of the numbers that some of the, I would say, underperforming guys in the bullpen are putting up, they've been better in the past. So you want to give them some of the benefit of the doubt. But I think the bullpen's almost too left-handed heavy. And I think they could actually use a McDermott pretty badly in the bullpen, especially a guy that you mentioned protecting the bullpen, or excuse me, just protecting the innings and the usage and things like that. Like McDermott's a guy that can go multiple innings for you too, in addition to making a spot start. So I'm hoping they use him because it doesn't sound like Tyler Wells is going to come back anytime soon, and it sounds like they're going to have to figure out who gets that fifth spot in the rotation. But I also think that this bullpen needs some upgrades too, and they might have one at home if they don't want to make the big splash.
Yeah, and if they're going all hands on deck, then both guys are probably on the roster come home stretch. And, I absolutely see a world where in September, Povich and McDermott are Baltimore Orioles. I just think if you're going to shuttle one back and forth where you need a spot start in Baltimore and then you send him back to Norfolk, have it be Povich and have McDermott come up when he's up, have him be up for good, and he
Mm-hmm.
fills that variety of roles that you're talking about.
Definitely.
So that's it on Baltimore right now. I do want to jump to the Phillies real quick before we get to some underrated trade targets. Actually, I lied. I forgot about the other transactions. Too quick. They're both options. Shane Baz was activated off the injured list. He was optioned to Durham. Jack Sawinski was optioned to Indy. They mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
Shane
Yeah.
Baz, clear as day. He's in the ramp up process.
Mm-hmm.
This is not an indictment on Shane Baz's performance. I think you see the O word and you think, oh, that guy's not good. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's washed. No, not true. He didn't have a spring training. And like his rehab window is up. You get 30 days on the 60. And then I think if you're on the 15, you get a 20-day window. So he got his 30-day window because he was on the 60. And now he's activated and he's got to be optioned to finish that buildup. Shane Baz will be back, I think, within the month.
Yeah, and they don't care about burning an option because you assume that you're never going to send him back down.
If you burn another, you're running into some serious issues.
Yeah, then there's bigger issues at that point, anyways. When you look at what Boz is doing right now, it's funny. I was watching. I didn't know he was going to get option. We were going to talk about it, but I was watching some of his recent outings. He pitched yesterday as we're recording this,
Yeah.
so it would have been on Wednesday. He looks good and he looks healthy and loose, which is the most important thing. But he's not spinning the ball the same way that he did in the past, and that's normal. And I think that's why they want to get him ramped up a little bit. If you look at the three outings, or we've gotten actually four outings so far, and he's kind of been scaling up the pitch count. Last time out, though, which I think was the most encouraging, he threw 76 pitches, which is a big jump because he was at 39 the first time out, 59 the second time out, 69 the third time out, and then this time we had 76 pitches. But the fastball in that outing where he threw, the most pitches he's thrown, averaged 95.6 miles per hour as opposed to the 95 flat he was averaging in the previous three outings. So velo up with the largest, use the most amount of pitches he's thrown so far. Great sign. The one thing that did stand out to me though is just not quite as much life yet on the fastball. That'll come, and it comes just with the feel to spin it and just continuing to cut loose. And Walker's talked about that as well, just kind of getting that vert back. And by the way, when I went back to look at Walker's start, he
Yeah.
was getting more vert again. So I'm really excited to talk to him about that, whether it's something that you feel or it's just, oh, I went back and looked at the data and it was spinning better this time. I'm very excited to hear about from Walker because I think it's going to be a similar progression for Boz. Boz could probably go out there and compete like Walker did in his first two outings at the big league level and survive. But Boz, much like Walker, is supremely talented. And when he's out there, you want him to dominate. And I think Boz, has a little bit more in the progression here to kind of get the stuff popping out of his hand a little bit better. And also just snapping the breaking ball. Well, we're going to talk to Walker about it, but the curveball, just how much sharper it looked last time out. It just seems like Boz kind of has everything bigger. And Walker talked about that. And it's cool now that we can kind of look at that with other guys now. Just seems like everything's a little bit bigger right now with Boz, which is totally normal.
Yeah, programming note, Bueller on Monday. We were initially trying to line up for him to be on today's show. Not the case. He's going to be on Monday. He'll start tomorrow on Saturday. But I love that point with Boz because I think there is a certain point where it's like, and I don't know if it's mental. I think the adrenaline of being back can absolutely have your stuff tick up, and that's great. But it is a level of loose, and I guarantee you there's minimal correlation between physical looseness and IVB on your heater. But like internally, I kind of feel like there is a little bit. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, hey, you're
Yeah.
free and you're gonna let that thing fly a little bit
Well,
more, and you're not trying to feel the ball on the path to the corner.
and the adrenaline for sure, right? I mean, we saw Walker, sitting more 93, 95, and then he gets to the big leagues, and he mentioned it. He said, "Oh, I know the adrenaline's going to grab me a couple extra ticks up there because you almost like subconsciously don't want to push your body too hard, and then you get out on the mound at Dodger Stadium, and boom, it all
Yes.
comes back. You're ready to go." And Jackson Jobe talked about that on the call up when we were asking him, like, "How were you throwing 101, 102?" I know it was a one inning spurt, but like he's
Fired
like,
up.
"Oh no, I felt the energy, I felt the adrenaline, and the ball was just flying out of my hand." By the way, check out that interview on the call up with Jackson Jobe, Tigers' top prospect, one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Really fun conversation with him that Jack and I had. But no, I do think that when he gets to the big leagues, back there, Boz is gonna have that adrenaline kick in too. And knowing that, you want to really make sure he's built up because you don't want the adrenaline pushing your arm a little bit further than it was ready to go. So it seems like he's starting to get there, and I'd imagine it's just a few more starts and they'll bring him back. And that's going to be a welcomed addition, I think, to the rotation right now for the Rays, who, I'm still not quitting on because of all the reinforcements they have coming. I know we mentioned on the last episode, Jack, do we have any idea when Springs may return? Have they said anything about that yet? I haven't seen anything, but sometimes I just miss it. And I see a guy like come up on the probables and the minors, and I'm like, oh, wow, he's already coming back. I know you'd mentioned that Springs may be soon looking at a rehab start.
So I here's what I saw. Here we go. Works one inning in a rehab start. He did. He threw at the complex. Okay, so Springs threw at the complex. He's like throwing in games now. The last update that I saw was he was throwing like live BP. And now, like This guy threw an inning at the complex, and he's
That's
going to work
huge.
his way back. That literally happened on Tuesday. I want to say Monday or Tuesday. So this guy is like building back up. And again, he's going to need to go through the build up process too, that Boz is going through. And, you could see Springs be optioned. I think he still has options remaining. I know he
And
kind of
I'm
bounced
sure he
around a little
does.
bit. Yeah. So, I mean, man, like, there you go. You've got these guys that I know Tampa's going to be patient with. If Junior Caminero isn't in the big league lineup, they're going to be patient with Shane Boz and Jeffrey Springs. That's for damn sure. They're in no
Yeah.
rush, and I think they know that they're going to hang around. And when they need the reinforcements to get them that wild card berth, they're going to be just fine. Another option is Jack Sawinski by the Pirates. Sawinski heads to Indy with a 60 WRC plus and a negative zero point 0.6 F4 in 49 games so far this year. The thing that's weird about Sawinski is he was playing like very below average defense. And that was kind of the calling card for him. And that's very, very clear that, he's taking his offensive struggles into the field with him.
Hmm.
And Sawinski is a good conversation to go along with James Outman as well, because we really didn't hit on the Outman option much at all.
No.
Outman was optioned last weekend. Sawinski optioned yesterday. Both these guys are very similar ball players. And,
Hmm.
like I think Sawinski or I think Outman's, you know, 90th percentile outcome is much better than Sawinski's 90th
For sure.
percentile outcome. Having said that, they're similar guys. And
Hmm.
when they're struggling, it's going to look really bad to the point where
Hmm.
both of them are now in AAA.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially if the difference is Outman, he's going to give you a little bit more with the glove. And I haven't looked at the defensive stuff with Outman. I'm curious how he was defending this year as well. But, there's a little bit more pressure on Sawinski to hit. And when you look at kind of what they've got going on there now in Pittsburgh, they've got some options. There's some guys that have been swinging it. And, Connor Joe deserves ABs. And
Yep.
whether that be in right field or at first base, I do think that they should probably, you know, maybe move Rowdy Tellez out of the lineup, but
It'll be a
they're
tough
paying
one to
him a lot
watch
of
on Thursday.
yeah, they're paying him a lot of money for Pirates relative, right? 3.6 million. That's a lot for the Pirates. So yeah, I get it. But I think when you look at it from the Pirates' perspective, Connor Joe's just swinging it too well. You got to get him those reps. And I think for Sawinski, he's just so streaky that you might as well go have him work on things again, in a more controlled environment in AAA. When I look at some of the underlying stuff, though, I'm kind of surprised that the numbers aren't as bad as they are for Sawinski. But he's just a guy that can, as you mentioned, be really streaky and can be a frustrating hitter. And when fastballs are kind of chewing you up, that's when you probably need to go back to AAA and figure out what's jacking up the timing for you there and what's going on. So I still think he can be a good baseball player, though. I really do. And we saw flashes of that last year. I think you're going to get that volatility, but I still think he can be a really good platoon piece. And hopefully he can iron some things out. And Outman, same story, even more so. I think Outman can be a really good player for a long time. And I think with the Dodgers, I think it's just more them trying to be proactive.
Yeah.
Why wait? Have him just continue to struggle, maybe form more, bad habits, and then you're in the back half of the season now, and then you got to option him. And then by the time he comes back up, he's pressing. I think it was more of, hey, let's just get in front of this. No one's saying you're a bad player, James. We still have you in our plans, and you're going to be a
Yep.
big part of this team if we win a World Series. But let's just iron some things out over in
Right.
AAA, and let's gain some confidence in an environment where the ball's going to fly. And I think that'll bode well for him ultimately.
And Andy Pages is mashing in the big leagues, and Miguel Vargas was mashing in the minor leagues. And, this may be their last opportunity to see if Miguel Vargas does factor into the Dodger future. I think 2023 proved that James Outman is fully going to factor into the Dodger future. I
Yeah.
think the start of 2024 has proven that Andy Pages is going to factor into the Dodger future. Miguel Vargas is getting closer and closer to fitting into the Michael Bush bucket where, hey man, like you could be good, just not with us. And
Hmm.
Vargas had more prospect pedigree, and Vargas has had multiple shots at this point. This is his third chance. And it could be like a three strikes you're out thing. Like, hey, if you are not performing to the Dodgers standard that has been set in 2022 and 23 and now 24 so far, like they may move off of that. And that may be the time that they move Pages back into the corner and move Outman back up and get him in center field. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that Dodgers situation shakes out. But man, like I'm sitting here watching Henry Davis and Jack Sawinski now get ABs
Yeah.
in Indy, and it's like those guys are two big parts of what the Pirates are trying to do offensively
Yeah.
moving forward. There is not much coming through that system offensively. Otherwise, everything
No.
is on the mound.
Yeah.
Everything is on the mound. So very, very different situations.
Last thing, and it's funny you talk about how they're similar players in Outman and Sawinski. Outman also just bizarre struggles with fastballs to like four seamers to just a ridiculous degree. You guys 3 for 39 against four seamers this year.
Mm.
So again, another timing thing. It just seems like he's rushed and in between. Go work on that in a controlled environment, get yourself right, and then rejoin. Because if you're not hitting four seamers, you got no chance in this game with the way Major League Baseball is now.
Yeah. Real quick on the Philadelphia Phillies. I know that you texted me about him. It was like, can we talk Phillies? And I was like, what's the new angle? I think you just responded, they're so good or they're the best. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
They are. Like they're amazing. And as it stands right now, the Philadelphia Phillies are what? They're 13 games over five. No, 23 games over 500. Sorry, they're 37-14. They've won 9 of their last 10. They've swept their last two series. Phillies are on another planet right now. And you noted the notable omission. They are doing this without.
They're doing it without a shortstop. They're doing it without Trey Turner. And maybe it's selling Bryson Stott short there because he's filled in and split over to shortstop there, but he hasn't played there much at all over the last few years. And beyond that, they're doing that with, you slide Stott over to short. They've had Cody Clemens make some starts at second base. They've also had Edmundo Sosa make some starts at shortstop, and then Stott slides back over to second base. And they're doing this also with, a shell of Nick Castellanos for the most part. I mean, it's not like Johan Rojas is the best hitter in the world. They have areas where you could kind of see them upgrading pretty easily. Castellanos is slashing 200, 273, 292. Johan Rojas is slashing 219, 262, 299. And they don't have a shortstop right now. And they are still the best team in baseball, and it's not particularly close right now. I think that is the most astounding part of it. Is the rotation going to continue to throw this way? Maybe. Like, normally we load that question up and the answer is like, probably not. No, it might. I don't think Ranger Suarez is going to be at a 1.36 all year, but you look at what Zach Wheeler's doing. I think you can subscribe to that. You look at what Nola's doing. I think you can feel pretty comfortable that he's going to keep
And they're paying
doing that.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Taijuan Walker's got a 5. So again, it's not like this team is doing anything that's incredibly unsustainable. And you'll get like the bullpen even. There's been some pieces that are doing well, but you've also got Gregory Soto with a 6 ERA and Jose Alvarado with a 3.5, who's been better of late. So like the thing that fascinates me about them and the reason why I want to talk about this team is I look at what they're doing and it's amazing. But usually when a team is standing on its head like this, there's some things that seem like they're not sustainable, right? Like no way this guy continues to hit this way.
Right.
No way this pitcher continues to throw this way. I look at this team and I'm like, not only do I think this is sustainable, I think you can make the case that they could be performing better just from a statistical standpoint. When you look at individuals, does that always result in more wins? No. And maybe balls are bouncing the right way and that they've been, clutch and they're doing some things that are just going the right way for them. But when you look at the numbers at some of these individual players, other than maybe Alec Boehm, who still shows no signs of slowing down, by the way, he got robbed today. I think he had 3 balls absolutely torched off the bat and had nothing to show for it. Like other than maybe Alec Boehm, there's not really anything on this team right now that says, oh, like I think this is going to slow down and this will be what ends up, bringing them back down to earth. I think they could have guys playing better, to be honest.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I even look at a guy, even guys that are like kind of holding serve. And you could say that Brandon Marsh is having a slightly above average season by his standards. Sure. But like Brandon Marsh could absolutely have a 754 OPS at season's
How
end.
about Schwarber?
Schwarber, yeah, like a 734 OPS. That's fine. Like he's got 9 homers. He's hitting 220. Like that kind of feels like what he'll do all year long. J.T. Realmuto, 772 OPS. Like that might just be what he does all year long. I look at, some guys on the bench, like Edmundo Sosa's got a 915. Like, is that going to happen? No, but like Sosa is a very good bench piece. I love Edmundo Sosa on any bench in Major League Baseball. Is Cody Clemens going to have a 1050? No, but like Clemens was a Lehigh Valley Iron Pig before Trey Turner got hurt. So like I'm with you. There's nobody that is totally standing on their head aside from Ranger Suarez that you're like, okay, you're going to regress. But even Ranger could end with a low twos, and I don't think anybody's saying, oh, that was, he pulled that out of his ass. Not really. He's a
No.
good arm that we've seen over the last several years that has put it all together. I think the two that you look at, Turnbull with a 2.5 in 39 innings,
Mhm.
and Christopher Sanchez with a 3.3 in his 9 starts. And I know that Sanchez was the who's this guy? He's really good guy last year. I still doubt Christopher Sanchez's ability to have a 3.3 ERA over the course of 162 games. But much like Mike Talkman, much like some other guys, he may just prove me wrong and he does it. Sanchez and Turnbull are the two that I look at and I'm like, okay, you may regress, but at the end of the day, they are surplus.
And here's the thing with Sanchez. I've said the same thing, or at least felt the same thing. But you had 99 in the third innings last year, where you had a 3.44. The underlying was pretty much right the same. And then this year, it's been the same thing, 3.31, like you mentioned, and the underlying numbers are even better. So it's like, yeah, I keep waiting for it to happen, but you look at some of the indicators and it's like, yeah, maybe nothing really does end up slowing down there. And then you're going to add Trey Turner back to the fold, who was playing really well. And I look at this team and I'm like, they're going to go make a move or something too. The farm system, as we've talked about, is stronger than it's really been in a while, which has got to have Dave Dombrowski salivating
Yes.
because they can go out and make an impactful move. I think pretty easily. And you look at a couple spots where they could upgrade, center field being an obvious one. And they could always go out and get some more bullpen pieces. I mean, there's some easy ways that I think this team could improve. And I think that's really scary for the rest of the league. I know some people might be like, oh, are they peaking too early? That's why I looked at each of these individual performances, though, and I think the answer is no. I think they could easily be that dominant team that really ends up having everything going right for them, and then it just ultimately comes down to can they win in the postseason, and can they string it together in a series that always ends up being a crapshoot, and that's why we love baseball. But for the most part, I think this is as good of a Phillies team as we have seen, and I think as balanced of a Phillies team as we've seen, and I'm really excited to see what Dave Dombrowski is going to do at the deadline because. I mean, they have an opportunity here to really put this team over the top. And yeah, if Castellanos isn't swinging it, like you could add a corner outfield piece
Yeah.
that ends up really elevating you.
You just spurred an incredibly interesting thought in my mind that we are going to get to in a moment because it totally fits into our next topic. But before
Mm-hmm.
that, quick break. Okay, so the interesting thought. You said the Phillies could be in the market for a center fielder. We're talking about underrated trade targets. And, we're talking about guys in Oakland, in Colorado, in Miami, in Chicago on the South side. Like, there are a lot of guys. And I think that there are a lot of sitting ducks. And there's a lot of trade dialogue surrounding Mason Miller and Luis Robert. There are some cut and dry, these are the big ticket trade targets at this upcoming deadline. Do they materialize? I don't know. But we're going to talk about some guys that could be an underrated good get. But I want to throw two names at you with ample control that the Phillies now have the farm capital to move for center fielders. I'm going to pose it as legitimate upgrade or not over Johan Rojas and Pache. Okay. And you just have to tell me yes or no.
Yes.
Brenton Doyle,
Yeah.
yes, legit
Yeah.
upgrade, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Gold Glover last year, one of the better, if not the best defensive center fielder in all of baseball. They could absolutely move for Brenton Doyle. And the
Mm-hmm.
other, it's been an interesting season already. Could they move for Esteori Ruiz?
Huh. I mean, clearly the A's don't like him. So
No.
I mean that could make a lot of sense. So I do wonder if it's worth the move at that point though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it enough of an upgrade with the Ruiz to the point that you go out and trade prospects for him? Uh, I'd only want to do that, I think, if it was a larger like Mason Miller deal, to be honest. Otherwise, it's like I think there's a little bit of redundancy there with Ruiz and then Pache and then Rojas, even though it could be better than them, like he could also just be the same thing. And then you gave up prospects for like kind of redundancy.
So I'm kind of thinking that Johan Rojas could be in the swap, like Rojas and a prospect for Ruiz,
Ooh.
or Rojas and a prospect for Brenton Doyle. And, it could be like, hey, we know we are downgrading if you are in Colorado or Oakland shoes. And it's like, hey, we know we're downgrading, but we're also getting a prospect to go along with this. And similar timeline, like we know this guy's a good defensive center fielder. Um, I don't know, like Brenton Doyle, just as soon as you said that, he jumped into my mind and was like, you know what? This could be an awesome get for the Phillies. And, any defensive shortcoming you have in right with Castellanos, Doyle can get over there.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was thinking about it too. So they're married to Castellanos, so it's tough. I think you got to kind of just weather the storm. And if you're gonna make a trade, you probably just go trade for a rental to get you through the rest of the season. Because otherwise, I'm like, oh, Brent Rooker makes so much sense. But
But
then
then
you
you have
have this
three
this lineup
DHs.
constraint. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have three DHs and you have a lineup constraint there that really stinks. Mason Miller though would be a really fun one for them too.
Mhm.
And now like, when you look at the farm system, Painter untouchable, right? But then you have McAble, you have Aiden Miller, who looks amazing. You have Justin Crawford. You have Starlin Caba, who's a very popular international free agent who looks really good out of the gate at the complex. They have one of the breakout guys of the year on the mound, and George Klassen, who's been spectacular at the lower levels.
How about
They've got
Aldegari?
yeah,
Another breakout.
they've got capital, man. So like I think that they could go out and make a big time move potentially, and that would be a lot of fun. But on the topic of like the underrated trade targets, I think the A's have more than they've had in a little bit, and I think that's where I look right away. Like and Rooker, we people were floating it last year, and I think the problem with Rooker was let's see him do it again. Right. This is a kind of a journeyman. He's not really ever stuck at a place. We've seen him get hot. He's a power bat that can get hot, but is he going to really be able to do this over a large sample? And we saw him do it last year. And I wouldn't have traded anything significant for him because I would have wanted to see him do it again. But here he is doing it again and really crushing baseballs and one of the tougher places to crush baseballs. I think there's a lot of teams that could use a Brent Rooker. And if you're the A's at this point, you don't really have much use in keeping him. I think Rooker's now become an underrated trade target because he didn't go last year. Teams were a little bit just skeptical. And now I think teams are going to be a lot more confident that what you're seeing with Brent Rooker is a different hitter and a guy that over the last year and a half now has figured something out.
And you've got a DH logjam at this point too. So why not move the like best DH, but also the least controllable DH that you've got at this point? Because Soderstrom needs everyday big league at bats. Langoliers
Mm-hmm.
needs everyday big league at bats. It's two catchers. All right, you're gonna slap one of them at first base. Ryan Noda was optioned earlier this year. And I know that Noda was really underwhelming at the beginning of the year, but dude, at the end of the day, like that guy was good last year. So I'm with you. Like Rooker has the value in a guy that isn't Tyler Soderstrom and isn't Shea Langoliers. So you go move that guy. And if they're entertaining moving Mason Miller, they should absolutely move Brent Rooker. You brought up another name that I freaking love for a contender, and that's Abraham Toro. And Toro started so hot. He's cooled off a little bit over his last few weeks, but Toro has logged 14 starts at second, 14 starts at third, 3 starts at first, a start in left, and 11 starts at DH. He can kind of fill in everywhere, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got a 780 OPS at this point. This could be one of the more underrated bats moved at the deadline. And I mean, the ROI for Oakland is exceptional on an Abraham Toro.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're in a spot now where you kind of have to look at what they didn't really do last deadline and feel like, man, they could make a lot of moves here and end up in a spot where they actually replenish this farm system pretty well and get themselves in a spot where I think some of these other guys are getting closer to the big leagues. They're going to bring Max Muncy up, and they have some other guys that they want to just give some run to in the second half and clear the way. And I don't think anybody that trades for Toro is going to be looking at him to play every single day. But and I know that we have a pretty large sample size of him being a below average bat. But at the same time, there's a reason why he's gotten a lot of chances. And similar to Rooker, there was a large sample size of him not performing, and then things kind of clicked for him around 27. And remember, Abraham Toro is 27 years old this entire season, so he's still a young guy too. Really dynamic in terms of the way that he can play all over, and I think he could be of use to a lot of different teams that that needs somebody that can fill that role. I mean, I just went and watched the Cubs play the Braves, as I mentioned in the last episode, and I watched Zach Short get the start, and then I watched Luke Williams come in for him.
Yep.
I mean, I know the Braves, have been a little bit beat up there, and Riley wasn't in the lineup that day, but I just feel like there's teams like that would jump at the opportunity to throw an Abraham Toro out there and fill in, and I think that's the kind of move that can help a team get through maybe an injury or just have some steady depth in that infield. And I think there's a lot of teams that could use a Toro. So that's just another underrated target. I think that even if he's providing league average offense, is helpful.
There are always guys like that that bounce around. And I think about a Louis Guillorme that's bounced around for a while. And it's like, hey, he's going to swing it. He's going to play, an adequate couple of places for you if need be. There is always a guy like that is dealt and ends up being a larger part of a contender's back end of the season than you think there is. You threw out a couple other guys in Colorado, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them I think is a really interesting conversation. It's a 29-year-old third baseman, a really good one, that a really good defensive one that is on a 6-year, $70 million deal. And he's making 12 million this year, 12 next year, 16 as a 31-year-old in 2026, and 16 as a 32-year-old in 2027. That's Ryan McMahon. And you asked, does anybody swallow the Ryan McMahon contract? My gut reaction was no, because I don't think he provides enough offensive value outside of Coors Field. Having said that, price of good talent is expensive now. And Ryan McMahon, like, you may have offensive questions. He still is a major league caliber talent, and he has proven to be one of the better defensive third basemen over the last half decade.
What I like about McMahon is he hits the ball really hard too. And I think maybe some teams might be just interested in getting him out of Coors, where the Coors effect can go both ways, right? When he's on the road, it's going to affect him a little bit more too. Just knowing he hits the ball really hard, has some big time raw power, maybe that can convert into a little bit more. I think the contract is a tough spot, and that's why it becomes an interesting conversation, because if you go year by year, he's owed 12 million this season, 12 million in 25, 16 million in 26, and 16 million in 27. I mean, that's pretty affordable. But if he falls off a cliff, when you get him out of Coors, then it's an extreme risk. And that's why I'm curious if there would be any takers, because the floor is so high at the same time
Mhm.
with the defensive ability that you have. And that's why it can be hard to accumulate WAR at Coors Field. And he's been a 2.5 win guy, 3 win guy. Last year it was a little bit below that at a 1.5 win season, but this year he's already matched his WAR total.
Yeah.
You want to be cautious of buying high on a hot hitter in Coors, and he's been unreal offensively this year. But if you get to like July and he still has a 130 WRC plus,
Yeah.
do you think somebody takes a chance? Is kind of my question. Or would the Rockies have to eat a little bit of the money? If they have to do that, you might as well just keep him. I guess the question just becomes: do you think anybody takes a chance if he still has a 130 WRC plus around July?
So maybe, can I point you to two teams that, like, I almost want to think about this from a team lens. I immediately thought of the Cubs and the Brewers when it comes to Ryan McMahon, like the Cubs in particular, because they're running Nick Magical out there at points. They're waiting on Matt Shaw, and they think that Matt Shaw is the major league third baseman moving forward, but they were in on the Chapman sweepstakes, and San Francisco dove in and got that. Do the Cubs like make a move for Chapman with that long-term commitment, looking to flip him again this offseason? If Bichette becomes available, Bichette's been rumored to be semi-available twice, and the
Mm-hmm.
Cubs have been the partner both times. Like, do they say, hey, Matt Shaw, like, we're not going to bank on prospects. Let's go get a Ryan McMahon if he's got a 130 WRC plus. My answer there is no,
No.
from the personnel perspective.
Yeah.
Now, Milwaukee, I think my answer is no
Too
from
much
the
money.
money perspective. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like there are multiple things there are multiple hurdles that you need to clear to have Ryan McMahon fit into your situation. And I think his market is going to either materialize or not. And I know that sounds like a whole bunch of nothing, but hear me out on this. His market is going to materialize or not in the next 3 months. I think it
Yeah.
depends who is good and who is looking for a third baseman and who doesn't have that guy that's in the upper minors.
And it's to that point, man, like I just don't see a lot of suitors. The more you kind of look at it, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
look around the league and it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of teams that are in a position to do that. The only one that would have made sense to me is the Giants because they've been wanting to spend money, and that's
They
probably a
went to
deal they would have
Chapman.
given out in free agency, but they went the Chapman route instead. So I think he's going to be a Rocky. Couple more years, then it becomes a lot more movable of a deal. I think when there's not as many years attached and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think with where they're at right now, and with you look at the rest of the league, it's hard to see a situation that he really would fit into well and a team that would be willing to kind of take that on for sure. With just given the fact that a lot of teams either have somebody that's not far off and potentially waiting in the wings, and the financial commitment to a guy that people are always going to be nervous at players coming outside of course. So I'd imagine he stands pat, unfortunately, but I'd like to see him somewhere else and just see what it looks like.
Can I throw you one more team and you try and clear both of those hurdles, the personnel hurdle and the financial hurdle? Do you know where I'm going?
Sure. So I thought maybe Seattle
That's not where I'm going.
because Jorge Polanco's cooked. By the
Yes.
way, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm giving up on this guy. I think.
Crazy.
And Rojas has been great, but you could slide him over to second, and then you could put you could put McMahon at third if you wanted to. But taking him from Coors and putting him in Safeco, like putting him in Seattle would be a big jump.
Yeah. The team that I was thinking of was the Yankees.
Yeah, LeMahieu though.
But DJ's in the last year of his contract.
No, they wish.
Really? How many more years does LeMahieu have?
I think he's got one more after this one.
Man.
And you see, by the way, actually, that's a topic we should discuss. Did you see fucking Hal saying that
Yeah, they got
they
to
they
reduce payroll.
they got to reduce payroll? It
Yeah.
must be so tough to run business as the New York Yankees. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
And I
man.
couldn't imagine how tight money must be and how difficult it must be, especially when you have to pay all of the contracts that you signed up for. And almost all of those players are performing the way that you would want it to. Even Stanton now is performing the way you would wanted him to. Sure, the LeMahieu deal doesn't look great. That's not the one that's breaking the bank for you. That was mind blowing to me that they had to come out. Like I get the owners crying, poor thing. Like it's par for the course here in Major League Baseball. But when you own one of the most valuable franchises in sports, like does Jerry Jones, and I know it's different, but does Jerry Jones ever come out and say stuff like that? Like I just when you are the brand or one of the brands in sports, I don't want to hear it. Shut up. Like I thought that was one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a while, by the way.
Well, like you just remember the weird like truffle burger that Peter got at the concession stand. And like, dude, look at the concession prices at Yankee Stadium. When you go to a Yankee game, last Yankee game
Ticket
you went to,
prices.
how much did you pay in tickets, in beer, in food? That's an $150 expenditure if you're sitting in nosebleeds.
Yep. Yeah. Just
Come on.
crying poor as the New York
We
freaking Yankees is
we can't do this.
outrageous.
We can't
Outrageous.
do this. And I hate the TV thing, the RSN thing. Like, dude, they've been on Yes for what, a decade and a half?
Yeah. It's outrageous. But
Insane.
what other yeah, so I think the nutshell is, McMahon's not gonna really go anywhere, especially like when you look at the Mariners, Dylan Moore's been playing at my guy Dylan Moore's been balling out. I think McMahon stands pat. So I mean, who are some other guys that you kind of think could be some sneaky targets? I mean, Elias Diaz should be gone. I think that's a guy that the Rockies will move and will be a catcher upgrade for several teams that could be trying to compete right now. But were there any other like underrated trade target names that you thought of?
Not really. I threw you a reliever and you said no relievers. Jimmy Garcia was the reliever. Like, hey, Toronto's in last place. Jimmy Garcia's having a great year. Just move him. But that feels like a clear-cut guy. You go to the cellar dwellers in each division and you pluck their best reliever.
Correct,
Um,
correct, always.
in terms of position players, no, I don't think so. And I do think we hit on that during the mailbag. Um, I see a world where Gosman gets moved at this
Mhm.
deadline. I don't think he's underrated, though. I think as soon as that report comes out, we're going to be talking about who's going to make the move for Kevin Gosman,
Yeah,
who's going to make the move for Mason Miller, who's going to make the move for Luis Robert.
The one for me is not even one. I think it's kind of the whole Mets rotation. Sans Kodai Senga and Christian Scott.
You
I
think
mean,
Sevy could be on the move again?
of course, he's a 1 year deal. Why would they keep him?
Good point.
He's shoving. Move him. I think I didn't know if it was real or not, but I thought I saw a screenshot of somebody asking like when the Mets are going to sell, and like Steve Cohen said it's like too early. Like we will basically. But I think when you look at the Mets and where they're at, and knowing what Cohen has been keen on doing, and how successful they were at the last deadline in terms of the returns that they were able to get, and they'll happily eat whatever is remaining on the salary of each of these rental arms that they have. Manaya's been throwing well.
Yep.
I think that's a guy that a lot of teams would be interested in, given his history of being able to throw pretty well and having this bounce back year. Manaya and Severino, I think, are two arms that could really be of interest to a lot of different teams and could be extremely valuable. So those are two guys that I think kind of get overlooked a little bit because it's a team that you're not always just going straight to the bottom of the division, right? And then doing what you're saying with the relievers or starter and mocking them to other teams. But I think those are two guys that easily are on the move and could be nice pieces and could get nice returns for the Mets.
Let me throw you another one real quick. How about Fetty? Eric Fetty could be on the move, huh? 2 year deal.
Oh, he's guaranteed on the move. I just don't think he's like good.
He's got a 3-1 through 10 starts.
No, I know. I'm not buying it yet, but he will be on the move for sure. I mean, why would they keep him?
I
There's no reason to.
I don't know. They got to sell jerseys. Eric, dude,
Uh,
if
How
Fetty
many over under 15?
jerseys sold
Yeah,
over because of the Fetty Wap thing.
no way. Is that a thing?
No, like it's just kind of the joke. It's, Remy boys whenever Eric Fetty's on the hill. It's kind of fun.
Okay, I didn't know that. I
Yeah, it's
haven't paid
fun.
attention.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still taking the under. I think it's like 12.
Yeah, it might be. And we're not talking in hundreds. We're talking in ones. Like we're not
Yes, like
saying, oh,
12
1,200.
jerseys,
Yeah.
12 Eric Fetty jerseys sold.
Damn. You know what? I might be lucky number 13. It's fine with me. Real quick before we get to hitters of the week and games of the weekend, just want to shout out the WBC host sites. The four were
Hmm.
announced for the 2023 World Baseball Classic. Fired up. I'm going to get to one of these. I'm assuming Miami. I vote we put somebody at Just Baseball at each of them, and I humbly volunteer to go to the Tokyo Dome. Cool?
Yeah, you can fly yourself out, baby. That should be cheap, right?
It's San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's Tokyo. Houston, Minute Maid hosts, and Miami hosts again. Miami should always be a host. That was an
Should be the final
electric environment. Yeah,
every time.
always the final.
Hmm.
Always. Houston is, a good one, much like Phoenix was. I assume that's where the US is going to be. Tokyo was electric. And instead of Taiwan, it's now in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Interesting choice, Puerto Rico and Miami, but that
Yeah.
ballpark is like it's got a lot of allure. I did an empty ballpark little walk around. I was calling a basketball tournament down in San Juan last winter, not this past winter, and the ballpark was just empty, no security. So I walked around like it's kind of fun, and it'll have a really good feel to it as well. So I'm really really excited for this grouping of four spots.
Oh, I think it's awesome. It is a good point you bring up though. Having Miami and Puerto Rico
Kind of
is
unique, like
unique. But you know what? I think it's great for Puerto Rico as well. And you imagine what that's going to bring there economically and just how excited they're going to be about that
yep,
out there. I mean, it's going to probably be like the Super Bowl,
right.
especially if they're playing over there. It's going to be awesome. So, I mean, we saw how Puerto Rico and so many of the Puerto Rican natives showed out at in Miami. I can't imagine what it's going to be like at those state at the stadium down there. But I mean, I think moving the sites around a little bit the way that they are is a great way to do it, but also having a couple like Keystone, like this is never going to move, like Miami is fantastic.
In
Of course, I'm a
Tokyo at
little
this point
biased.
too. Yeah.
And yeah, in Tokyo, like I'm biased to Miami, of course, but there's no better melting pot for this whole thing in general. And I also think it's just such an accessible place still, and it just becomes such an easy spot to call the end of the tournament there. That I mean, we saw it in person there. It is different. It is just a special environment there. Not that it wouldn't have been anywhere else, but there's just something about having it all end. And I think what is probably the biggest melting pot in America, I think is the perfect place to call it there. the other thing that is great is we'll be there, and that's the cool part too is it's so easy for us given that that's my stomping grounds, and we always do the spring training trip every year anyways. So for the WBC, it'll be really fun for us to cover it down there as well, and it's so cool to see the crowds that it continues to bring out, and especially for baseball in South Florida.
100%. And Miami is a baseball city. I know Marlins crowds do not indicate that, but WBC crowd certainly did.
hmm
Hitters of the
It's a
week.
it's a baseball city when the baseball's good,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. So you know what? Peter Bendix, get him right, baby. All right. Top five hitters of the week, as always, presented by Outlier. When I do it, I'm the simpleton. I go with OPS. I don't go with WRC plus. I've got the top five in OPS. Aram, guessing game. One of them you just mentioned like 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago, Brent Rooker.
No, AL West, right division. You mentioned how much you love him.
I don't even listen to myself talk.
Yeah.
Uh, AL West mentioned how much I love him.
Yeah.
I can't even
Seattle,
remember.
man. Come on.
In Seattle,
Yes.
and I said I loved him. When I say I loved
Yes.
him.
Dylan Moore, man. You literally just
Oh,
said
yeah,
that five
yeah, yeah.
minutes ago.
I didn't think he was playing enough to be eligible for this thing.
Dylan Moore has played 7 games over the past week. He's slashing 429, 571, 1048. Dylan Moore has 7 extra base hits in his last 7 games. A 1619 OPS is third. Who's number one? NL West.
I'm hoping Dylan Moore can, take J Rod into the cage and show him a few things,
For
kind of get
sure.
him right.
For sure.
Not everybody's as talented as Dylan Moore, but I think he can kind of explain some things, get some guys right on that team, and I think that's what he did with Luke Raley. I
Mhm.
think that's easily what he did there. But Aaron Judge has to be on there,
Judge is two. Yep. Judge is OPSing 1671.
and that including today?
It is. I mean, it's live updating on the portal. So yeah, 8 games, slashing 417, 588, 1083 over the last week. 4 doubles, 4 homers, 10 walks in his last 8 games.
Yeah, just real quick on him. Um, he's healthy again, and I
Yeah.
mean he was playing like hurt last year, and that the result was a 174 WRC plus.
Yeah.
He's at now with today's game, as we're recording this, he's at a 187 WRC plus. And remember, like when he won the MVP in 22, it was a 209. Uh, I mean, this is some special stuff again. I think we're going to see and that's what Judge was doing before his toe shattered.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a really special season again, as long as he stays healthy. And now with Giancarlo doing what he's doing, I don't think Judge is going to slow down anytime soon.
Problem is they can't pay Soto after this because they got to scale down payroll, which is
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, maybe they move Judge, to clear some space.
Yeah, that would be good. He'd be a great Rocky. Judge would be such a good
Oh
Rocky.
my God,
Schmidt Ball.
I'd kill for that.
Hottest hitter in baseball at this point, NL West.
Hottest center in baseball, NL West. NL West.
Guy's hitting 565 in his last 6 games.
5, 6. Is it Luis Arias?
Arise is ninth. He's hitting 545 in his
I
last
figure he's
seven.
not slugging enough, but that guy's been awesome.
Yep. This guy is an 1829 OPS. He's
Mm,
cleared the pack by about 150 points. 5 doubles, 3 homers in the last 6 games.
5 doubles, 3 homers. Holy crap, who's doing that?
Chappie, baby. Matt Chapman's getting
What?
hot.
You
Yep.
could have given me 25 guesses. I would have missed that.
Matt Chapman over his last 6 is 13 for 23 with 8 extra base hits. Matt Chapman balling out. Just 3 punch outs in his last 29 plate appearances.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Giants need him real bad right now too. So, I mean, that's nice to see because I was starting to get worried that he might be just slowing down at this point.
Yep. 4 and 5, massive names. AL West, AL East. Massive names right now, and massive names in general.
AL West, AL East.
Yes.
Gunner's got to
Gunnar
be in there.
Henderson is fifth. 6 games, hitting 318 with 4 homers, a triple, a 1399 OPS is fifth.
And then Kyle Tucker.
Kyle Tucker, 7 games, hitting 348, 4 homers, a 1444 OPS. So Matt Chapman 1, Aaron Judge 2, Dylan Moore 3, Kyle Tucker 4, Gunnar Henderson 5.
Dylan Moore. I love it.
Dylan Moore.
Uh,
Jake Myers, 6, by the way.
whoa.
I know. Bobby
I
Witt,
mean,
7.
that explains why this Astros team's coming to life a little bit now, right? I mean, you got those guys swinging it the way they are, and Loperfito's been contributing as well. Like all of a sudden, they're getting a little bit more production, and then they're going to start playing Jose Abreu again. So
Yep. Bingo. If you're asking where Rafi Devers was, Rafi Devers is 11th, 5 homers, but he's got I think it's what, 7 hits in his last 7 games, 5 of which have left the ballpark.
and
And
I'm
11 started
guessing
to
he
go
hasn't
against.
walked much at all.
Rafi has walked 4 times in his last
Oh,
31 plate appearances.
no, it's
So
not bad for him.
not bad. Good for you, right? All right, let's wrap with games of the weekend here. And we'll start today as we just hit the hour mark. How about that? Our mission to be under an hour has failed miserably again. But we
Hmm.
start today. Shota Imanaga throws against Miles Michaelis at 8:15 in St. Louis. Shota is 5-0 with a 0.84 ERA. I'm going to set an alternate line. Cubs minus 3.5.
I mean, I'm going to take the Cardinals with the runs. They're playing some decent ball. I think they've been playing some decent ball. I think they surprise in the series.
All right, another alternate line here. Corbin Burns in Baltimore, in Chicago against the White Sox, and Chris Flexen. Orioles offense against Flexen, Corbin Burns against the White Sox offense. Baltimore minus 3.5.
Yeah, I'm crushing Baltimore minus three
Okay.
and a half. The crazy thing there is too is like Baltimore's offense has been a little bit slow the last few games. If this ain't a get right game, I don't know what is.
Yep, 100%. How about Alek Manoah? What does his line look like in Detroit against the Tigers? Matt Manning's throwing. I'm not asking you for a victor. I'm just asking you what Manoah's line looks like against an offense that's really struggling.
6 1/3, 1 run, 2 walks, 7 Ks.
Wow.
I think in that environment, man, like the thing that kind of gets to him is the long ball, and then he starts nibbling, and then he walks guys and whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, knowing that he can pitch to contact there, it seems like once he feels confident in his stuff, he's back to that Alek Manoah again. Once he starts feeling like he can't get the whiffs, then you start to see him nibbling, and then you start to see him fall behind, and then guys jump on the fastball, and it gets ugly quick. He's been great lately, and I think this is a perfect situation for him to keep it rolling.
for sure. 7:10 in New York. This is an interesting one. You won't be in town. Kyle Harrison against Christian Scott. Giants Mets.
Ooh. Wish I could go to that.
Yeah, right.
I like Harrison's been pretty good too. I like Christian Scott. I'm going to go with the Mets in that one, but
Bounce back because he struggled in
but the
South
Giants have
Florida.
been swinging it so much better. Even
Uh-huh.
Elliot Ramos is swinging it right now,
I
dude.
know. I know.
Elliot Ramos has been great. Luis Matos has been on another planet.
And they're
I
24 hours removed from seeing Skeens.
and the Mets offense is just been putrid. I'll take that one back. I think the Giants win. I think Christian Scott puts together a good start, but no, I got to go with the Giants. That one, they're showing some signs of life.
Game of the night tonight at 9:40 in San Diego. Latest start that we've got. Carlos Rodon and the Yankees against Yu Darvish and the Padres. That's a good one, ain't it?
In New York,
In San Diego.
San Diego. That's a good one. You know the San Diego faithful are going to show up for that one too.
Yep.
Mm. The Yankees are scary right now. I don't even know what's going to happen in that game. I'm
I
just going to
know.
shut up and watch.
Yeah, I think me too. I don't give
I got nothing.
ways, but yeah, I'm gonna shut up and watch too. Saturday, 4:05, Reynaldo Lopez in Pittsburgh against Mitch Keller.
How's Mitch Keller been lately?
Really good over his last couple.
To the Braves offense too. I mean, even with the wind blow, it was like hurricane force winds. They still weren't really hitting much out there in Wrigley.
Yeah.
I'll go under.
Under.
I think a good pitcher's duel.
Okay. How about Jordan Hicks against Luis Severino in New York at 140?
Well, as long as Hicks, well, what did he do?
He had his tummy wummy hurt.
Yeah, but he did something like weird. I feel like that made his tummy hurt, and then he threw up right before he started,
No,
and then he like ate.
I just read that he was eating stroopwafels.
Yeah, that's what it was to get
And
himself
Peter
right. And then he
didn't
just
know what
started
a
throwing harder.
stroopwafel was.
He was throwing like 90 in the first inning, and then like, yeah, I didn't know what a stroop waffle was. He ate some magic waffle and started throwing 94 again in the third and fourth innings.
You've never had a stroopwafel? I showed Peter a picture. He was like, "Oh yeah, those are gas." I'm like, "Yes,
Stroop,
dude." You've
Stroop.
had the Stroop waffles. You didn't study abroad, did you? Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
You didn't know that?
I don't know.
God, man, it was one of the. It was sad for me. No, I stayed in Syracuse, baby. I did not get cultured.
Man,
Um,
you haven't had a Stroop
yeah, I've
waffle?
never had one of these things in my life.
They're fire. They
And
have
if
at
I
Starbucks.
look, if I just threw up, this is the last thing I'm eating.
No, man, it's good. It's good. It's like a better version of toast. It's
And
really
it
good.
just makes you throw 94.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So, all right. No winner. You're just like, screw it.
If they have Stroop waffles on deck,
Giants.
we can go Giants again.
Good on you. Okay. In Cincinnati, 7:15. Walker Bueller making his return back to the region against Hunter Green.
Ooh,
You cannot
that's
pick
a
the
fun.
Reds.
Yeah, let me think about this one. I'm gonna go Dodgers on that one.
Easy.
I mean, coming off of Walker's last start, man, and you know what I keep just seeing right now is like that curveball just continuing to stymie those hitters. I mean, we saw it last time
Well,
out, but
and he just shoved against Cincinnati. So
yeah.
now they return the favor going home, and you know he's going to have like a billion people there from Lexington.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be fired up. I'm excited to tune into that one, and I know it's gonna be a good one for him.
Yep. Bueller, Hunter Green tomorrow night at 7:15. Last one on Saturday. Marcus Stroman against Dylan Cease in San Diego. This is the goods, man. Rodon Darvish on Friday, Stroman Cease on Saturday.
Stroman's last time out, dude, we came out and fired up the Yankees crowd. I mean, he fits like a glove on that team. I think that was a great addition, and you could tell he takes a lot of pride in being a Yankee as a kid that dreamt of doing that. That said, Dylan Cease is better. Them at home, I don't know if they're going to win the first one. Like we said, it was a toss up, so I'll take the Padres in this one.
Okay. Sunday's kind of a clunker. Logan Webb, Sean Manaea in New York at 140. Give me the Giants.
I think this is they lose the first two, so I think the Mets steal this one here.
Okay, how about this? Ranger Suarez, Cal Quantrill in Colorado.
Like,
Kind of Rockies.
dude, Cal's been unreal.
I know. And first loss of the year for Ranger. He's 9-0 with a 1.36. Naturally, this ends in Colorado.
His ERA just inflates to
Right. Like
just
he leaves with a 4.
he's just being a ground ball guy though.
Yeah.
The thing that concerns me though with Rangers pitch to contact and then you have all of this space in the outfield. I know he's been getting plenty of whiff too. I don't know what his numbers are at cores. I have no idea. But give me Cal. I'm gonna back Cal.
Okay. And knowing what we know now, 3-game weekend set between the Yankees and the Padres. Darvish Rodon on Friday, Cease Stroman on Saturday, Schmidt Musgrove on Sunday. Who wins the series?
I think the Yankees win that pretty easily. I think
Yankees
because
win that
of the
series.
last game there. I mean that last pitching matchup's just too lopsided. I don't know what's good with Musgrove.
I
Like
don't know what's going on.
it just something doesn't seem right there. And Clark Schmidt is disgusting right now, and he's
No.
he's just not slowing down at all. I think that's ultimately that what tips the series there. So I'll go Yankees taking that series. But I think that's gonna be the best one of the week of the weekend. I think it's gonna be close games. I think they're gonna be a lot of fun. I think there's gonna be some good pitchers duels. I think there's gonna be some big swings. But that last game might be a little bit more lopsided.
Yeah. It'll be a great weekend. Walker Bueller on Monday after his semi-return home. He throws at the ballpark that he grew up going to games at, which is very fun. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Get your merch, listen to every show on the podcast network, read the articles, and we'll talk to you guys on Monday.